everyone. I'm Stephanie Tsai. Thanks for joining us. The United Nations General Assembly got underway today in New York City, and President Trump is making his first appearance there since taking office. Tomorrow, Mr. Trump will deliver a speech to the Assembly at around 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, this morning, the president participated in a meeting on management and security where he said that he's looking to, quote, reform the UN. He also said the organization hasn't yet reached its full potential. He'll also be busy meeting with several world leaders, and earlier he met with French President Emmanuel Macron.
He's doing a terrific job in France. He's doing what has to be done. He's respected by the French people, and I can tell you he's respected by the people of the United States.
CBS News Radio UN reporter Pamela Falk is at the United Nations, joining us now for a recap of day one at the General Assembly and a preview of tomorrow's events. Pamela, hello.
Hi, Stephanie. Yes, today at the UN, world leaders watched the somewhat conciliatory first comments of President Trump as he spoke to a U.S.-sponsored event on reforming the UN. He was with the Secretary General, with U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley, and many diplomats saw the event as a diplomatic coup for the U.S. because it put the Trump administration in favor of the UN's own reform efforts to make it less bureaucratic, less costly, and more effective.
President Trump has met with Emmanuel Macron. During the press availability there, he said he's doing a fantastic job. What are these two world leaders, were they expected to discuss in their meeting?
Well, first and foremost, of course, is the Paris Climate Agreement. Famously, the President Trump has said he has to answer to Pittsburgh, not Paris, and that was a reference to the climate deal that was consummated in France. Now, in recent days, you've heard from President Trump say that there might very well be some wiggle room on the question of withdrawal, which the U.S. actually did formally implement in August, the beginning of a withdrawal that takes 3 years. But U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said this week that there may very well be a change of heart on the withdrawal if the U.S. gets its terms. And so there's a real interest in the French president bringing President Trump around on that. The second biggest issue, Iran. And the French president, along with the rest of the European Union as partners in the nuclear agreement, would like the agreement to continue to go forward. President Trump has said Iran is in noncompliance, and you've heard from Iranian President Rouhani say that there will be consequences if this deal doesn't go forward. So those are two very big issues. And of course, the Tuesday speech, which is the first actual speech that the president will give to the UN General Assembly as it begins, will be North Korea front and center.
Let's talk about another bilateral meeting that the president had today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And Pamela, you bring up the Iran deal. Netanyahu called it a terrible deal. But they also talked about the goal of achieving peace in the Middle East. So I want to play this sound for you. Let's listen.
We are giving it an absolute go. I think there's a good chance that it could happen. Most people would say there's no chance whatsoever. I actually think with the capability of Bibi and, frankly, the other side, I really think we have a chance. I think Israel would like to see it, and I think the Palestinians would like to see it. And I can tell you that the Trump administration would like to see it. So we're working very hard on it. We'll see what happens. Historically, people say it can't happen. I say it can happen. But I just want to say, Mr. Prime Minister, it's an honor to have you. Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you
very
much.
See you. Thank you.
Pamela, what else came out of that brief exchange between those two leaders?
I think the fact that the president is very critical of Iran and the Iran nuclear deal has been a point of joining for the two leaders. But I think the president is also trying to see if he can set down some markers to establish some talks for peace in the Middle East. The president will also meet with the leader of the Palestinian Authority later in the week, and the idea here is to get the talks started. He sent Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. He's had Rex Tillerson on the case. He has Ambassador Nikki Haley talking about it. So it's an intractable problem. We do know that, but it may be the last best chance for these leaders, that is both Prime Minister Netanyahu and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, to sit down and see if they can work something out.
Now, President Trump was very critical of the United Nations in the past, but today he affirmed the U.S. commitment to the UN. He says he just wants to see it reformed. Pamela, what does he mean, and do those ideas have traction with the rest of this world body?
Yes, they in fact do. And what he means is less bureaucratic, less costly, more effective. And the U.S. has made its point that it will cut back on certain things. It's already cut $500 million out of the peacekeeping budget, and that was with the agreement of the Secretary General. The president also said the UN has fed the hungry, provided disaster relief, and empowered women and girls in many societies. So that's not something people expected to hear from the president. He wants to make the UN more efficient, and the Secretary General ran his campaign for his role, which he is the new Secretary General, on transparency and less bureaucracy. The Secretary General opened his remarks saying, "What keeps me up at night? Bureaucracy." So I think there was a certain meeting of the minds that lays the groundwork for a somewhat compatible relationship and a bit of a positive reaction within the international community, despite the comments that the president has made about the UN.
Well, so it should be very interesting to see President Trump's address to the UN General Assembly tomorrow. This is not his usual audience.
No, it's not his usual audience. And of course, like any world leader, he will be speaking to an American audience. He'll talk about sovereignty. He'll talk about the fact that the importance of American foreign policy and security is what is very important to the United States. But this Secretary General has also started his first program since he came into office was on counterterror, and that was bringing 18 different UN agencies together to actually upgrade both the intelligence and the hands-on ability to fight terror around the world. So this is a president who is going to be tough. He's going to, as Nikki Haley, the ambassador, said, slap some of the right people and hug the right people, in her view, but being very strong in the end. So he will address a U.S. audience on the question that the UN doesn't run the United States, but he'll address the international community on the fact that there is some multilateralism to be had, which is a departure from President Trump.
Pamela Falk, some great insights from our UN reporter at CBS News Radio. Pamela, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you.
You too. The United States will be sending over 3,000 new U.S. troops to Afghanistan. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis finally gave a number on the record during an off-camera press conference at the Pentagon. No details on a timeline were provided. The U.S. has been at war in Afghanistan since 2001, making it the longest war in the United States history.